All right, what's up, everybody? This is the Pardon My Jerk podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Dunc. We're coming to you live from the Hamlet homestead. I was evicted from my child's nursery this week because this week we were introduced to our newest Jerk family member, my son Kellen. So I'm coming out from my spare bedroom today until I can find a new podcast studio. What's up, Dunc?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Fabulous. Just finished up working out. And tonight was a pretty good one. It was a fun one.
Yeah.
So
What do you guys get into?
so this week's Jerk Werk was a chipper. It was a lot of fun. This week's chipper was for time. 100 calorie row for men, 80 calorie row for women, 80 kettlebell snatches with a 70-pound kettlebell, partition as needed per arm, 60 GHD sit ups, 40 handstand push-ups, 20 ring muscle ups, and we capped that one at 20 minutes. So 100 calorie row, 80 kettlebell snatches, 60 GHD sit ups, 40 handstand push-ups, 20 ring muscle ups, 20-minute time cap. So that's this week's Jerk Werk. It was a lot of fun, actually.
Did you get all the way through it?
I did not.
How far did you make it?
I got into I had a little bit of time left when I got to the ring muscle ups. And then after doing all those handstand push-ups, I was just fried.
Couldn't push the ring muscle ups.
I got up on the rings, got like one good set in, popped down. It was like, all right, I'm just going to wait it out. I'm going to get back up on those rings at the end here and try to get one more good set. And that was it.
Stared at the rings for a full minute and a half.
Yeah. It was like a pretty well put together chipper. Like one of the hallmarks of like a good chipper is when you feel good for the first half and then you die on the second half, right?
Yeah.
So the first 30 GHD sit-ups, breeze. Second 30, I'm like grunting my way through them. So no,
you try and go unbroken on all the GHDs though?
No.
Sounds like something that you would give a shot to.
You know what? GHDs are weird. If I'm doing like an EMOM or like every 3 minutes on the minute, I'll crank out 20, 25 on a clip without much of an issue. Throw them in the middle of like a Metcon, they become like the most difficult thing of all time.
Oh, I agree. Dude, GHDs are just not for me.
It's weird because you have such a long torso.
Yeah. Also the hand behind the head touch the ground, I can't do it. It wrecks my back.
That depends on the piece of equipment a lot too though.
Yeah.
Like if you have a bad GHD, that is hard. Like
I've completely stopped just putting my hands behind my head. I'm not like I do what I do with them. I get what I get out of them. Yeah. I'm not a games athlete or anything, so I don't have to worry about getting no repped on a GHD.
I do the bear hug. Like I just
stick your arms out as far as you can.
Yeah, and then I'll get there. But the hands down the toughest part was those kettlebell snatches. Especially with 70. Oh my God. Not even close.
70. I didn't know you did 70.
Not even close. That was the hardest part.
Yeah, 70 sounds. I've been doing a lot of kettlebell stuff though, so I feel like I would be able to. So my buddy got a 150-pound kettlebell.
Hell yeah.
And I've been messing around with that thing. Oh, dude, that thing.
What are you doing with a 150-pound kettlebell?
We do like a lot of workout, like EMOM workouts. Been doing different styles of like Russian swings. He got the bell because he wanted to try and do a Turkish get up with it because he's more of a strong man kind of guy. So, but me, it's like it's Russian kettlebell swings, or I'll add have you ever parked the kettlebell like and then gone into a swing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like we'll add that into it, but nothing like you can't do anything with it like absurd. Like you can't be
follow guy. There's a good Instagram follow you might enjoy. Shout out, got a gentleman by the name of Schless Strength.
Okay.
Schless Strength. He's the strength coach for the Phoenix Suns.
Really?
I don't know his full name. He does a lot of cool kettlebell stuff. That's real like he's a strength coach, so it's real athlete training for athletics focused. It's not kettlebell flow. I'm not into that at all, but it's like heavy athletic movements with a kettlebell. And he's pretty innovative. Like I come from I got my sort of gateway into functional training was kettlebell work, like Pavel Tsatsouline, like that whole crowd.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the approach I take to kettlebells, like snatches, cleans, presses, push presses, a lot of swings, and then like the more like the bent presses and windmills, like that type of stuff. This dude, pretty innovative, some pretty cool stuff. And it'd be fun stuff to do with like a heavy bell. So check him out.
Okay.
Yeah. We also did something tonight, dude. I think you would have really enjoyed. We did a snatch ladder EMOM.
With a barbell or dumbbells?
With a barbell.
Okay.
So as an EMOM, you do 20 double unders and then 1 snatch. And then every minute of the minute, you add 10 pounds to the bar if you're a male, 5 pounds if you're female.
Ooh.
And you just go until, you kind of hit your cap.
So 20 and then a snatch, and then the rest of the time is adding the weight and rest.
Yeah. And you had a partner to help you change weight.
Okay. How heavy did you get?
I hit 255.
Damn.
Yeah, I didn't hate that.
I've been wanting to ask you how much. I know you don't strength train for like a 300-pound snatch anymore, but you're still up there.
I'm disappointed in myself that I'm psyched about a 255 snatch. But I got under that thing. It was moving pretty well. I got some rest on the knees because of the baby, so my legs were feeling pretty solid. And then but we've been doing like a lot of absolute strength work, so the pull off the ground felt good.
Yeah.
Honestly, where I was feeling it, and this never happens to me, is shoulder stability, like just holding that bar overhead.
Really?
Which was like, that was kind of where I was feeling it today. So, oh well. So
I had a good workout today that involved some snatches. It was every 4 minutes for 4 rounds. You did a 500-meter ski, and then for each round you would do 15 for the first round, and then 12-9-6 for each round afterwards. Power snatch, and then the remaining time you do max double unders. So at the 15, you started at 95 pounds, and each round the weight went up. So 15, 95 the first round, 12, 115, 9, 135, 6, 155.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
It ruined. It was so bad. I don't know if it was just the ski or what, but it got me bad.
I'll put that on the docket. I like that. I want to try that. You almost lost me at the 500-meter ski, but I'll try that.
Well, I chose the ski. There was another option for a row.
Oh, okay. Word.
But I'm a decent rower, so I figured I might as well just give the ski a shot.
Yeah.
See how much worse that makes that workout.
Let's get into it today. So, topic of the day today. I want to come on and us have like a true debate, right? So, for those of you, any of you guys out there listen to Josh Matt Sevon podcast, Josh Bridges brought this up, that he has strong feelings about the usage of 1-rep maxes in the CrossFit Games. So, did you listen to this, Dunc?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Briefly. I'm pretty sure I got the whole conversation.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't touch on it a lot because they were both pretty dismissive of the perspective of Josh, but I thought it was super interesting, sort of his perspective on it, right? So Josh Bridges, in the podcast, he has the position of he does not believe that 1-rep max tests belong in the CrossFit Games, and also believes that it is an invalid test because certain sports are selective of certain body types, right? So I just think it's a provocative conversation to have for people that like the sport. I'm going to take Josh's side on this, okay? Just because I kind of want to explore it. So first things first, like, what's your first impressions on that position regarding 1-rep maxes?
If thinking, coming from him, listening to him talk about it, it just seems like he's a little salty because he's smaller and not as strong as everybody else. like he's never going to be, I mean, I guess he could be because there's plenty of small guys that can lift a lot of weights, but he was never going to be a guy that was going to snatch 300 pounds or anything. So he was never going to finish towards the top of the leaderboard in any of the strength stuff. So it just seems like he wants the 1 reps out because it affects the smaller guys' game. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, I just think it just sounded like he just doesn't like it because it favors bigger people and he's not a bigger person.
Right. But the weird thing to that is, and I hope the weird thing about that is Fraser is 2 inches taller than Josh Bridges.
Oh, that's why I had to like hesitate when I said he's a smaller person, because Fraser, the guy he's talking to, is, like I said, 2 inches taller, maybe 15 pounds heavier.
I think so Fraser runs about 195 because I looked all this up today. Bridges runs about
I think they mentioned this on the
175.
podcast too.
What's that?
But still, I think they mentioned like their weights on the podcast too, or at least they have before. And
Bridges
yeah,
is like
right.
170 to 175, I think, is what he usually about runs at.
But there's no reason that he couldn't put on 20 pounds or 15 pounds. If Fraser can put on that weight and not look like a big bowling ball that can't move, there's no reason Bridges can't.
Yeah, it's something about these wrestling guys, man. Like, if you notice, a lot of these dudes that come from like these wrestling backgrounds have such a hard time getting bigger and stronger, right? Like Spieler, like his blood type was peanut butter by the time he was finishing up his CrossFit Games career, and that dude could not like he couldn't crack 150 pounds.
That dude could go. That dude could go to McDonald's for every meal and not put on any weight.
Right, and he's like in his like early 40s now, mid 40s, and he's still like a freaking twig.
Yeah,
like Jesus, I hope I look like that when I'm his age. You know what I mean? But like he's still like he hasn't like thickened up at all. You know, like he can't put weight on even at that age.
maybe it is something with wrestlers though, because you think about it, gymnasts, while they're doing gymnastics, especially if they're at a young age, they don't grow. Like,
right.
My sister's a good example. She did gymnastics up until she was like 13, and then, or whatever age, she was young when she stopped doing it. She had like a 6-inch growth spurt like the year she finished, the year she stopped doing it.
Yeah, so James Fitzgerald's talked a little bit about this, and I would love to have the opportunity to kind of pick his brain on that. James Fitzgerald's like very big on sort of growing the sport of CrossFit at the youth level, like to make it essentially like a high school sport, right?
Fitzgerald, he's the one that won the 07 games.
Yes, yeah, okay. Won in 07 OPT, they call him that. He's in the Every Second Counts doc.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So he's a founder of OPEX. That's probably a better way to introduce him. But anyway, he's really big on this, and one of the things he talks about a lot is let's introduce CrossFit at the youth level, but we need to really take into consideration and appreciate the gravity of introducing a sport like this to such a young audience. And he specifically references gymnastics and wrestling as sports that we need to look at, because they're sports that involve a high level of overtraining. They're introduced at very, very young ages, and they involve restriction on a child's diet. And I'm not going to be like an armchair like physiologist right now. If you guys are curious, go find some of his resources. He's talked a lot about it. But basically, like, because of those factors I just introduced, at such a young, I mean, dude, how many wrestlers do you know that like started when they were like 4 years old? You know what I mean? Like,
as soon as they're allowed to wrestle, they're wrestling.
Right. And gymnasts are the same way.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a profound impact on their gut fauna, their hormones or pituitary gland, that it's like having these profound long-term effects on these athletes, to the point where like what you're seeing is when by the time they're 30, 35 years old, even if wrestling and gymnastics is way in their rear view mirror, they're physically just broken.
Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with them that CrossFit shouldn't be something that is introduced to children as a sport. I think it should be introduced to them as like a training ideology, but not.
I 100% agree with you.
Not a sport. It should be the training ideology for like football and basketball and baseball and soccer and like those types of sports. I don't think they should be doing their local competitions at 8 years old.
Well, this is a whole other podcast we could get into on this, because on one hand, I'm like, yeah, right. Like, part of me is like, you know what? We're getting kids active. We're getting them fit. We're getting them health. We're introducing them to exercise, good movement, good diet at a young age, which is awesome. But on the other hand, I'm like, dude, you're 13. Go hang out with kids and play outside and try new. You shouldn't be hanging out in the gym with a bunch of adults. And
It's a
dude,
it's
it's
a tough,
so, and it's a huge rabbit hole to go down,
like,
you know?
it's just a tough question because you're basically, it's like the same as any other individual sport though. It's like if you would rather than play team sports, and I'm a team sport guy, grew up doing team sports. So like, I mean, yeah, you want them to be social, but like, are they being social if they're running track and
Right. Yeah, 100%. But that's totally valid. I think the one thing that you do have to be very careful though is for what I just said. It's like you're now like we have this like this comparison from athlete to athlete. Now you're going to take these kids who are going to be they're going to be maniacs like the adults, and they're going to want to train their like face into the ground. And that what the point that I think James is making that I would make is like, we need to be careful taking a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old, whatever, and reinforcing like overtraining yourself and potentially hurt yourself long-term and in the short term. Right.
So what he's getting at is like, teach them how to train.
So he went as far as to like for part of the scoring for their events should be the quality of movement should be taken into consideration in the same way that like
judge, like, are we talking like a judge judging a gymnastics floor routine? Like,
right.
Like,
so
is it all up for interpretation at that point?
He would have to speak to it, but I think it'd be like kind of taking the same consideration. Like when they're doing a 1 rep max snatch, you have to treat it the way that you would for like diving. Like just doing it's not enough. You need to land, you need to land it perfect, and it needs to look good when you do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But we're going off on a tangent. We got to save this for another podcast.
Yeah, we definitely did.
So my first inclination to defend Bridges' perspective, the first thing I said is, and the thing that Bridges was purporting was single modality sports are self-selective, right? So if you want to be a good long distance runner, you're going to have a specific body type. If you want to be a good swimmer, you're going to have a specific body type. If you're going to be a good gymnast, you're going to look a certain way. And he's like, and with weightlifting, we have introduced weight classes for a specific reason, so the sport doesn't become self-selective in that manner.
So is he worried that weight classes are going to be involved in CrossFit in the future, or like?
I don't know. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but the weight class in CrossFit thing is not a new argument. That's been around legitimate as long as I've been following the sport. I remember us having this argument in the gym in 2013 about whether or not there should be weight classes.
I think it would be a terrible idea.
Right. I'm not personally fit because I think it kind of goes against the spirit of CrossFit. Like, we're trying to find the best overall well-rounded athlete that's truly prepared for anything, right? But in there's certain athletes that, like, we saw it this year, right? We've seen it with like Matt Fraser, right? Like, there's certain athletes that are always going to win the strength movement, the strength workouts, but an athlete can change the way they're training to excel in the endurance workouts. That's not necessarily an endurance athlete.
Yeah, but those same athletes can change the way they're training to get stronger and win strength workouts, just like Fraser did to win some long distance running workouts. He wasn't a good long distance runner when he started. Like, I mean, it's just about how you train and what you focus on throughout the year.
You're making my point for me. My point being is Fraser was successful because he has such a weightlifting background. He came into the sport already strong, right? So he can sit here and say, I'm going to go an entire year and not even touch a barbell, and he can still compete at a high level at the games.
All right. So what happens if you have a person like Haley Adams that can go run a 5-minute mile, even if she hadn't trained it for a year, and she just
You're making my point, right? So it's real. I can sit here and say, Haley Adams could stay the way she is right now, potentially take 5th place in the CrossFit Games, and every workout that doesn't involve a barbell over 125 pounds for her, she could do exceptionally well. But then as soon as we get into the 1 rep maxes, or like do 1 round of DT at 215 pounds for a female.
Yeah.
Now she's cooked. You know what I mean? Where it's like she could be clearly fitter than the field around her if Tia Toomey wasn't competing.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
So what was your actual point then?
I don't know. My point would be that we should modify the way we test strength in the CrossFit Games. Okay. So my point would be that what we see in the CrossFit Games is selective of the fittest individuals on earth. And the strongest athletes will be strong when we put a 225-pound barbell in a man's hands, or a 155-pound barbell in a woman's hands, right? But there's other ways and more effective ways to test strength than just straight up work to a 1 rep max, right?
Yeah, but then there's also the idea that you and I can go out and lift 225 pounds and be fine. It wouldn't be a big deal, but like we never got an Olympic lifting coaching and none of that stuff. So that holds us back from lifting 350 pounds or 375 pounds. So all the time that each of those athletes put into like nailing the fundamentals on all of that stuff, that should matter to me when you talk about that is a part of the test. It's how well can you move, how efficiently can you move that heavy barbell, it's how good is your technique. Like you said, Fraser was an Olympic lifter, cool, but he hits all of his cues, like he hits each snatch and each clean is done the same way, and he hits it heavy. Right. So but like you go in and find somebody that's just strong, and then they get up into a heavy barbell like that, 350 pounds, they're not going to be able to do it because they can't move properly. So
the unfortunate thing is we keep talking Fraser. And like I ran the numbers on Fraser today. And the thing about him is he's a freak show.
Okay.
So the problem is we need to talk about the other 99% of athletes, because when I went back and checked Fraser's numbers, so I told you I went back because I have nothing else to do right now because I have a newborn baby. I went back and ran 1 rep max events in the games. And I ran how those standings would change if it was based off of percent of body weight.
Okay.
And I did it for 3 of them. The standings weren't rocked as much as you would think it would be if we base it off body weight.
Okay.
The person that has a huge gripe with this would be Cody Anderson.
True.
Cody Anderson is the one should actually be making this argument. And again, I'm making your point for you. Cody Anderson said, I'm never going to compete unless I get stronger. I'm just not going to I'm not going to do a burpee for the next 2 years. Right. And I'm just going to focus on getting stronger.
And he did, but he's still
and he
not.
did, but I'm still not convinced he could compete at a high level with weightlifting events at the games.
I agree. I feel like he's in the top half. But for a guy that is as small as he is, top half is a pretty good spot to be, I would say.
Yeah. Now, when I went back and ran the numbers on this, Fraser, in regards to percent of body weight, is still right exactly where you'd expect him to be, if not higher. He still just moves unreal weights. The other guy that popped off the page for me that was kind of crazy was Scott Panchik.
Yeah.
Scott Panchik only weighs 187 pounds and is easily one of the 10 strongest guys in the field every year.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, I mean,
easily, if not one of the 5.
He was in the final 2 for the heavy clean 2 years ago.
Right, so. And he actually weighs less than Fraser does. So,
yeah.
I mean part of it, and like I think part of it is like it's just so much of what is your background, because you can get conditioned in a couple months, but it takes years to get strong. And Panchik was a football player, Fraser was a weightlifter, So
you're saying there's an advantage to what you grew up doing? I mean, obviously.
Yeah, 100%. Well, at least that's what appears to be the case.
But is that an unfair advantage, like, for the field? Like, is it unfair that Bridges did wrestling instead of Olympic weightlifting? Like, I mean, is it unfair that Spieler couldn't put on weight if he 7,000 calories a day?
No, I think honestly what the argument is it's gonna be just like swimming and track and stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's tons of guys out there that are really fast that are, 5'8", and it's like, sorry, dude, you're not going to compete in the 100 meters.
Yeah.
You're not going to be in the 400 hurdles or whatever the event is.
Yeah.
You're
not going to compete for the Olympics.
That's what Dan Bailey did, isn't it? So maybe you can.
he didn't make it to the Olympics, though, did he?
No, he ran track for Ohio, I think.
Okay.
University of Ohio. Still D1.
I knew that he ran track. I wasn't sure that he was like top level. So
you could probably make the case there that it's just a selective sport. Like 3 years from now, you're not going to see outliers anymore, right? Like the Fikowskis are going to get taken out of it.
Oh yeah, I mean, CrossFit's still a relatively new sport, so like we haven't gotten to the generation that grew up doing this. But we're close to that generation, but we're not there yet.
But like I would sit here and say, like, if you want to level the playing field and reward the generalist, right? Because that's what we're trying to do. Like at the CrossFit Games, we're trying to find the guy or female. Sorry, I catch myself doing that every podcast.
Just talking about guys.
I always say guys just because it's I'm wired to say it like that. And I always laugh. I'm like, I know I come off as like sexist on here, but anybody knows me, I'm like, yeah, I'm way more interested in the women's field than I am the men's field.
The women's field is like far and away more interesting too.
Right. But
not even close.
Part of it is like this whole conversation came up because of what Bridges said. So I'm like thinking like guy stuff. And it's way easier to identify like what a small male is than it is to identify a small female, in my opinion. Yeah. Like there's more.
They're all small.
Striation between the men than there is the women.
Yeah.
But I think if we're trying to reward the generalist, right, and we're trying to find an event that doesn't. Maybe we don't want to reward though raw strength or absolute strength. We want to reward relative strength. And I think that would be the point that I would make for the Bridges side or the Spieler side. Because like Chris Spieler was 143 pounds in the 2014 games and overhead squat 275 pounds. Almost double body weight.
Yeah.
I think I have to go back and check my list. In relation to body weight, Froning still wins it. Fraser takes second. I think Panchik takes third. And then Spieler takes fourth.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. That makes sense. But so I feel like all these guys can put on weight, except maybe Spieler is that outlier that he just can't do it. Like right. And you keep saying we want to reward the generalist, but like it's not fun to say we're going to reward the best athlete that's pretty good at everything, or just kind of good at everything. In a general sense, I mean, you want to find the most elite at all things. I mean, that's
right. But then watch a strongman competition.
Yeah, but you're talking about but that's completely different.
But that's if you want to see who's the strongest, that's the strongest.
Yeah,
I want to see who's the strongest and can also do a 1 mile swim in like 5 minutes.
All right, but you still got to figure out who the strongest is.
Right. So I'm saying, a better way to do it, you could. First and foremost, this is a real simple way to do it is just base it off body weight. Like what's the
body weight?
The whatever coefficient. You could do it that way, or just test it in a way where it's like 3-minute AMRAP of squat snatches at 225 pounds.
Yeah,
which actually sounds hellacious. That sounds really bad.
It does sound terrible. But no, I don't like the idea of testing it to body weight because. And I'm a heavier person. So the idea of me lifting double my body weight and Spieler lifting double his body weight, I feel like is a far more achievable thing for Spieler than it is for me.
Right.
I have to lift almost 500 pounds.
Right. Exactly. And you're never going to overhead squat 500 pounds. Right. So, and then, or 480 or whatever. But then the other side of that too, and just to argue against my own point, and because I've gotten into arguments with this about people in the gym many times, where they're like, they make the body weight argument towards me, like, oh, you snatched 250, well, you're 60 pounds heavier than me, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm 60 pounds heavier than you because I'm bigger and stronger than you too. Like that is a part of it.
Like I'm a big person, but like I try and also be big and also fit at the same time. It's not an accident that you look that way or you can move that weight. Like you could have just sat on the couch for the last 10 years of your life, been 250 pounds, and you couldn't have gone out there and snatched 250.
Right. So. Yeah. It sounds like, right. I weigh, 220 pounds because I lift a lot of weights and I've done it for a very long time,
Yeah.
So yeah, I do get kind of annoyed with some of the CrossFit guys that want to say that too,
I feel like the body weight argument for me is like the most annoying point. Like I would be so upset if they went that route.
Right. So then the route because I've said it many times, right? Like I don't really have an issue with there being 1 rep maxes in the CrossFit Games because I think it's relatable. It's people enjoy watching it. It legitimizes the sport. So the average person or somebody that's involved in another fitness philosophy can sit here and say, I mean, how many times have we gotten arguments with people about CrossFit? And then when they see someone like Sam Dancer go and deadlift 615 pounds and an EMOM,
right?
I think there is an element of like, oh, okay, well, these people, like, I don't care who you are. 615 pounds is heavy.
Yeah,
anywhere
you
go.
You have to be able to lift it the correct way to lift it. Like, it's not just an accident that he didn't do it with a rounded back and have his spine pop out of his butt.
That was part of me kind of wishes we could go back and do the best events of all time, because that's right up there with me. Not the deadlift and not the trail run, but doing them together. Like, I think that is one of the most comprehensive tests of fitness you will ever see.
And the way they did it, where it was like last place goes first place goes last, it was cool.
That was a really, I think that was such a all-encompassing test. Like, you need to be a great endurance athlete and you need to be strong, right? If you're those two things, you are incredibly fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, like, a way to keep the 1 rep max is to announce to have it be something that like people work for, and it's a good test for every person, and it announce the workout at the beginning of the season, just like the strongmen do. They know they're going to deadlift heavy every single year. So like before the open, like when they change the rule book every 2 years, like they've always done, be like, all right, 2022, we're doing a 1 rep max snatch. You have 11 months to get stronger. That
would really step on the toes of the unknown and unknowable, prepared for anything type of thing. But you're right, that is a way around it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, but if it gives, like, it's like, all right, do I know if I'm going to deadlift heavy, snatch heavy, clean heavy, overhead squat heavy? Am I going to have to squat, press, and deadlift in 5 minutes all at the same time?
Right. So I'm going to come back at you one more time. So Coach Glassman has a famous quote. He said, and I might butcher this a little bit, but he said, strive to blur the distinction between weightlifting and cardio, because nature doesn't know the distinction, or however, whatever his eloquent way of explaining it was. So basically, we're gonna build our foundation on, we don't want to necessarily be doing straight up just lifting weights or straight up cardio, but that's what we're going to test.
So it sounds like he never wanted to have 1 rep maxes as a part of the test.
It's possible.
Like it was never his idea. I don't even know if he ever wanted to have a CrossFit Games at this point. But
well, they put the CrossFit total in the first CrossFit Games, which he made. So
I think the CrossFit total is the worst.
It's got to go. I'm done.
It has to, man.
It was I was especially salty that they put it in the games this year. It's like, dude, it's been done, guys. We've done it.
But that's and that goes back to the 1 rep max thing. It's like, let's do 3 of your heaviest 1 rep maxes in a span of like 10 minutes.
Right.
Like,
is that a real 1 rep max?
Yeah. And that's not good for your body. It's just not smart.
Right. But then the structure they did it in, 2018, 2019. When did they do it before this year?
I want to say it was 2018.
When it was like an EMOM or something like that. Remember that? It was like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to
No,
max
they
out.
they had like 4 minutes to like get a couple lifts, get a heavy lift
Right.
at each station, and then you moved on.
That's kind of my big thing too. It's like, all right, if we're going to do an absolute test of strength, let's make it an absolute test of strength. Let's not do the thing where you get 90 seconds. Let's not do the thing where you get 2 attempts at a snatch. Let's not do it as an EMOM or like a if we're going to do it, let's freaking do it. Let's do it competition style.
But that kind of goes against your point there too. It's like,
yeah,
you're right. This earlier. You're like, you want to talk about, can you be an endurance athlete and lift heavy? Do a WOD before you, and then give them 2 minutes to get to lift something as heavy as they can, and then have
the
that be their test of strength
style.
Yeah.
Do an entire event, give you a short rest period, and not to the degree 2010 did. That was ridiculous, but do something where like you're going to do the trail run and then you're going to go do a 1 rep max deadlift on short rest.
That's essentially the exact same idea, just
right.
performed much better
right
in 2016.
Right, for sure.
So
yeah, that's probably
that's
a good way to do it.
But okay, so let's go off of like CrossFit Games is a sport. What is entertaining to watch?
Right.
Like, it's nice to see people lift 300 pounds over their head. It's nice to see people get close to cleaning 400 pounds. It's like, that's fun to watch, especially if you're in the stadium and have all that energy. It's flying around. People want to see heavy numbers go up. There's a reason why people watch.
That's why the best expression of it was, honestly, as much as I'm sure you hate to admit it, the best expression of it was in 2019 with that 1 rep max clean.
Yeah.
Because there's been years where they put 50 platforms out there or whatever, and everybody's going at different times. It's like that can be kind of dry to watch.
Yeah, no, I liked that workout. I liked the way they did it, and they could only do it that year because they had trimmed the field down.
But 2017 was a kind of a cool year the way they did it, where they had all the platforms. Everybody got their own platform. They could change their weights.
Yeah.
And
they just kind of one athlete go at a time.
Turns. But that was the year. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't that the year that they gave them 2 attempts or 3? Or it was they got 2 attempts.
You had 2 attempts to hit a 1 rep max snatch.
And
so
then
if you failed the first one, but that's how like a lot of the Olympic lifts are. Like when you do an Olympic weightlifting meet, if you fail, go back, collect your shit, and come back out and do it again.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. Because I'm sitting here saying, like, yeah, is it fair to sit here and only give them 2 attempts? Because but then remember the way they did that one, if I'm not mistaken, and we're rewatching this now. They took the top 50% and moved them onto a second round to get like a 3rd and 4th attempt, right?
I don't think so.
I thought I'm going to sound like an idiot if I'm not right.
No, yeah, you might be right. I haven't rewatched the actual event. I've seen it in the doc, but they don't go into that. You might be right.
I'm pretty sure they took like the top 50% and they moved them on to like a second round and let them snatch again.
I mean, that's cool, I guess, but like,
because they pulled Tommy Venus aside and they interviewed him afterwards, and they're like, "Oh, what's your goal for that?" And he's like, "I'm going 3 blues." Remember, like,
yeah.
Probably don't remember that, but
like, what's the point of that though? Like, did you not try and lift as heavy as you could in the first round? Like,
because you only get 2 attempts. So if you screw up twice,
but that
Jordan Troyan in 2014, if you screw up, you're done.
That goes back to my point though. Like, train the lifts, lift them right, don't fail.
Right. I think the one thing I will say though is, like, can we get a break from just the straight up barbell lifts too? Like can we get a break from the snatch, the clean and jerk, the clean, and they did overhead squat like once, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I agree. They got to change it up or it's just going to become an Olympic weightlifting sport.
Right. And
much there.
That was why I was like, that's why I love the Strongman Sphere workout so much. I wanted to see it be a straight up strongman workout.
Yeah.
And get rid of the handstand walk, because there's so many, and kind of at the heart of this conversation, there are a lot of different ways to test strength. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of ways to test it that don't involve the CrossFit total, a 1 rep max clean and jerk, or a 1 rep max snatch.
Oh yeah. And
And
those aren't
that's
the best ways to test strength. I mean, you're not going to find the strongest person. The strongest person can't clean, you're not going to find him by cleaning 400 pounds.
right.
You know what I mean?
And there's such a technical element and a central nervous system element to the Olympic lifts, which is what makes them great.
Yeah.
But it's not always a test of absolute strength. And you're always testing one very specific test of strength among hundreds, right?
Yeah.
Like, someone explained to me why we couldn't have a field like at Strongman Sphere, right? 10 lanes on the grass, and we have 20 farmer's handles, and we can't tell them work up to a max 100-meter farmer's carry.
So as far like they load the weight and they go.
Yeah.
But I think you're better off going, all right, everybody's got the same weight. Go for a minute. How far can you get?
Well, they did that in 2011. Skills 1, skills 2.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be because like how it's like, all right, Fikowski put 300 pounds on his farmer's handles, whatever, and carried it 77 feet, but Fraser put 200 or Vellner put 290 pounds on his, but only but went 15 feet farther. Who wins?
Neither. You have to complete or it's a DNF. Because that's how it is in strongman. If you don't get there, you don't get to, you know what I mean? Like,
okay. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Give them a whole bunch of weights on the sideline, at the sideline, on
But
either end.
do you have them all go at one time?
Yeah, I'm
because,
sure.
I mean, you're going to have people gaming it then because it's going to be exactly like how they did the CrossFit total. It's like, how much weight did he do? All right, I'll do 1 more pound.
Yeah,
yeah.
I guess that's true.
You could do it like they did you could do it with a sled pull. You can get 50 freaking sleds and just load it up as much as you can.
But no, here's the thing. You don't have to tell that that's fine if they want to game it like that because you're rewarding the person at that point. You should be practicing this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you should know what your farmer's carry is. Like, these guys shouldn't be going there like, oh, well, Vellner's doing 100 per hand. Well, I'm going to try to do 1. You should know because this is stuff it's just like the pegboard. Remember, the pegboard came out. Nobody knew what the fuck to do with that thing. And then everybody spent the entire offseason doing pegboards, right? You'll do the farmer's carry thing. Everyone will bitch and complain about it for the next year. But then you'll come out next year. Guess what everyone's been doing?
Everybody will be great at it.
Yeah, right?
No, I get it. I get there's 100 better ways to test strength than they do right now. You could freaking pull a bus. Just watch a strongman competition for 5 minutes and you could find better ways to test strength.
Right. You could do a car deadlift or like when they keep dropping weights into like the that'd be awesome. Oh man, I would love it. It would be expensive and and the problem is like scaling. Mm-hmm. Scaling as far as like you need to have 40 or 50 individuals that can do it within, a 2-hour time frame. But like the thing where like they drop the weights and they do the rack pulls or like a cage carry, something like that. Keg toss would be awesome, right? That's what I don't know if I can think of a better test of just raw power than throwing a keg over that pole vault thing.
Oh, you could easily figure out a way to make that work for 4 heats of 10 people.
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing I've been saying forever too that I wish they would do is a true Atlas stone.
Like just the heavy Atlas stone. Can you get it up on
platform? Like the way they do it in strongman, where you have 5 platforms, you have 5 stones of ascending weight and descending platforms, and it's a race to get it up there. So again, that's a true test of strength, and like a bigger, stronger athlete will do better, but there is an element of speed and technique involved that would give other athletes an opportunity.
Man, I want to know the differences that they would have to have for those platforms for an Atlas stone. You got like 6'9" guys in strongman. You got 4'11" guys in CrossFit.
Well, yeah, they would all have to be custom. Like Rogue would have to go custom make them. But Brent Fikowski would absolutely dominate that event.
Oh yeah,
it wouldn't even be close.
Oh.
Like,
yeah, but that would be fun to watch. It's just another one of those where it's like it's going to be expensive and it's only going to last for like a minute.
But that's something like you could scale that to have heats of 10 people going at the same time, And like, Rob Orlando and his company Hybrid, they already have the stone molds. You could put those together for you could mass produce those things. And if with what Rogue is capable of doing, they could definitely put together 100 Atlas stone platforms.
And then they would sell millions of Atlas.
And you could just sell them, right? You could all those stones, everything, you just sell them, right? If they could build an obstacle course in like 2 days, they can build an Atlas stone platform to scale to that level, and it's quick too. So you could do the whole thing like they did with, kind of like the obstacle course. You run, you run heats of 10, top 5 advance to the next round.
Yeah.
Then you run you have 20 people, 10 people advance to the next round, and then the winner of that heat wins. You know what I mean? You could do, because it's a very fast event.
Yeah.
Which would be great.
And the fast events are the more entertaining events. So
I think there is a degree too of, just kind of what we're getting at here is like, there is a degree of like snatch exhaustion.
Yeah.
Or like, I've watched the same. We've pretty much done almost every iteration we can think of a 1 rep max snatch, 1 rep max clean and jerk.
Also, it's a lot of this is the same athletes that keep coming back and doing it. So like we already have a pretty good idea of the order of the leaderboard at that point for that event. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's not going to change. Like there might be one guy that's he's going to shoot up because he did it, or he did it all year. So like there might be one guy that like changes the leaderboard up, but there's not going to be anything. Like nothing's going to blow your mind.
No one's going to blow your mind with their numbers that you know what's coming for the most part. Well, and it's like, and if you're going to do it like that, there's probably a strong argument to be like, okay, well, if we know you're going to do it, test strength in this way, this whole thing should be done like the decathlon, right? If we know, like this point, like if we know you're pretty much going to do some kind of snatch, some kind of clean and jerk, well, why not just do it the way like Dubai's doing it? And we're just going to have 10 different tests that are basically all testing 10 different things.
So focus each event on a certain thing.
And do it like the decathlon. You're going to your training going up to this is going to be your training for this specific event. Because if we're going to make it predictable, it's like, well, at least let them perform at the highest level.
Yeah, but then But then the product just gets boring.
Right.
Like over the years, that just gets boring. Nobody wants to watch that every year.
100%. You're 1,000% right on that, because that would not be near. That takes away all of the entertainment factor out of CrossFit. So it's like, then stop testing strength with a 1 rep max snatch.
I think I'm more to the like you brought me to your side a little bit throughout this. You did, but not like all the way. Like I'm just more closer to your side based sheerly off of boredom. We've seen it all. We've seen it so many times now. I still think that the 1 rep max. Do a 1 rep max bench press, like just do different lifts. Right.
But you just said, right? Okay. Event number 8 in the 2021 CrossFit Games. You have 5 minutes to work to a 1 rep max snatch. And you're like, okay, well, if the winner, like we pretty much, I can tell you right away who, there's 8 guys that have a shot to be in the top 5 of this, or 8 females that have a shot to be in the top 5 of this. So it's like it would just be better to see things tested in a more creative manner.
So we come to the conclusion that 1 rep maxes might not be the best, but in a completely different, we got there in a completely different way than what Bridges, the way Bridges went about it with his opinion.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. The image that keeps coming to my head. The image that keeps coming to my head is the event from, I believe, 2012, but I could be wrong on that, where they did the handstand, maybe it's 2011, where they did the double unders and overhead squats straight into handstand push-ups and a sled push. And just the image that keeps coming to my head is seeing Chris Beeler cram his noodle against the sled that triple his body weight.
Yeah.
And he's pushing that thing down his lane, and like when you see that, you're like, this dude is not weak. But this dude is going to take bottom 10 in any strength event that they throw at him, because the sport has become selective. I
mean, I don't know. I don't know. But you can make the argument the other way around too. Like Spieler's going to win all the running events and all the burpee events, and Sam Dancer's going to finish last on those events.
Yeah.
Not selective. It's not selective. It's just doesn't that those specific athletes are not well-rounded.
Right. Well, Sam Dancer is not a well-rounded athlete.
No, yeah. Oh, yeah. Spieler's more well-rounded, obviously. That was
Right.
just an extreme comparison. Like,
right.
But
yeah, yeah, it's interesting looking back. Like when I was looking at, because this whole, like I said, this whole thing got sparked by Bridges. So I was going back and like looking at how he did on specific events, and I look at it like, yeah, man, like the heavy events. The problem is the wrong person brought this. It shouldn't have been Bridges, because you want to sit here and say, well, in terms of relative strength, right? Like with he's relatively strong. He just doesn't have a lot of strength in terms of absolute terms by comparison to the rest of his field. But if you look at the way he performed in certain events where the barbell was at a moderate load, he's like fine. It's like he doesn't jump off the page.
yeah.
Like Bridges did well in the events that were long distance, endurance, long grinder events. So it's like dude, I kind of agree with you, but the problem is you're not making your own point, right? So like I ran the overhead squat event from 2014. And what would have happened if they just would have done it based off body weight? He still would have taken, I believe, 9th place.
What did he finish?
27th, I think.
Okay. But that's 27th to 9th is still a big jump.
Yeah. Except it would have made zero difference in where he would have placed.
Really? And you really dove into that one.
Wait till you have a kid, man. I told you, take off work when you have a kid. I'm made of time, man.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm actually. I did get some interesting information out of that. So, like, the difference that he would have made if there had been just a percentage of body weight would have made no difference in the standings. However, I want to go back and check the numbers again.
But does he push harder if he's like? Does he push harder in other events if he's closer to the top? Like, because maybe it didn't make the change in like the end result, but it would have going into the next event and the next event. Like
maybe
like if he's 27th place, that drops him down to 15th because I think that was a day 2 workout. Drops him down to 15th for day 2, as opposed to the 9th place that would have kept him in the top 5. Like, does he? And he's in the top in that final heat. Working.
I mean, we can disappear down a deep rabbit hole of what ifs on all that, but that's why Bergeron says, man, never leaderboard. Don't check your spot on leaderboard. Don't check how you did.
Yeah, Bergeron can say that. He can preach it all he wants, but you're gonna do it. Everybody does it. It's impossible not to, unless you're Katrin Davis' daughter.
Oh, Katrin Davis' daughter.
No, okay, so just one more thing on the Bridges thing. Bridges is strong. He won the event where he did the handstand push-ups and then the heavy sled pull. Like, he beat other strong people in that workout.
Oh, you're telling me as soon as you change the modality of the strength workout, all of a sudden it levels the playing field a little bit?
Yeah, but it's still strong. Like, it's just not strong in certain aspects. Like, if he can do that, then why can't he overhead squat something moderately heavy and keep up with the guys that we're lifting the same weights, Right.
So
that's an unskilled strength test as opposed to an overhead squat and a snatch where moderately heavy becomes a skilled strength test.
Right. So I'm looking it up right now. I want to see how he did on just first. I was looking at 2016 a lot because I think that was the last year of top grade Josh Bridges. Like Josh Bridges competing at the highest level.
2016?
2016. 17, remember he was sick. And by 2018, I think he was just too beat up.
Yeah, I think so. 2016.
Double DT, which is a workout where it's like an athlete like him should do,
should finish
to
in the
prove
top
your point,
10.
you should do well, right?
Yeah.
He took 12th.
What did he finish in heavy? What was a heavy DT for him?
All right, let's check how he did in heavy DT. Stand by, folks.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That is heavy DT at the weight that they chose. It was heavy. That's heavy.
205, right? That's what they did it at?
Yeah. That is for 5 rounds at that rep scheme. It's heavy.
Oh, he wasn't in the games in 15. That's why I didn't know that information.
Okay.
I was like, I should have known that already. So
I'd be real curious to see how that would have, like,
I think
that
Josh would be
moderately
too.
to like heavy, moderately heavy to heavy barbell would have kind of floored him.
Right. So I was also doing this with 2014. That's why I landed on 2014, right? 2014 did not. It was a very light games in terms of like the weightlifting demands on it. You had the 1 rep max overhead squat, right?
Yeah.
But you also had the beach. You had 333, sprint 1, sprint 2, muscle up biathlon, the sprint carry, right? So it wasn't crazy heavy games, or there wasn't a ton of weightlifting. So you had a 1 rep max, and you had the clean. That was the first they did the clean speed ladder.
Okay.
Obviously, not going to be a home run for an athlete like Chris Spieler, Cody Anderson, or Josh Bridges, who were in the games that year, right? I want to make sure I make it very clear. Everything I looked up on this made Cody Anderson so impressive to me. That dude's and Scott Panchik. But like something like 21-15-9 complex. Josh Bridges took second in that.
What was the 21-15-9 was?
That was when it was, I'm going to mess up the numbers. It was
what was the movements?
This is the one, so it was like 975 pull-ups, chest to bars, and bar muscle ups. Then 975 deadlifts, power cleans, and snatches. So it was 21 reps of each. And this, do you remember this one?
I do, yeah.
And then 15, it was like.
It was in 2014.
Yeah, and there was like 654 pull-ups, chest to bars, bar muscle ups, and 654 deadlifts, power cleans, snatches. And then it was like 432 bar muscle ups, chest to bars, pull-ups, and then deadlifts, power. Do you remember what I'm talking about here?
I do. But also the barbell wasn't heavy. So
it was 135
that's
for men, 95 for women.
Getting through it. Like, it's just,
but that's what I'm saying. That's Bridges should have done well, but he's also a freak show when it comes to pull-ups.
Yeah.
Right. So that same year, let's go double Grace. Scrolling. Yikes. Spieler beat him in that one. Bridges took 23rd.
Yeah, there's no reason why he shouldn't do well in that workout. 1, he's moderately strong. 2, he's small. So, like, he's going to be quicker at moving that weight. Like, I know double Grace has a lot of work in a very short amount of time, but still, you wouldn't think that your 1 rep max, like, strength should come into play that much in that kind of workout.
No, it doesn't. I think it has very little to do with that workout.
Yeah, like, so they're like the strongest people on it, like Froning and then Frazier were top 2. Like, obviously they're 2 of the strongest people, but I don't think the final leaderboard would indicate like this guy is the strongest or these are the top 10 strongest guys in the field. You know what I mean?
Right. But yeah, this that the small deep dive that I took too, Froning comes off as very impressive as well.
He's not that big, right?
He's like 5'9", 5'10", like
around the same weight as Frazier. Yeah, they're like the carbon copies of each other.
Yeah, so
taller.
He's like 195, I think. At least that's what he's listed at.
How heavy is Cody Anderson?
Like 172 is what he's listed at. He's probably heavier now. 173 maybe.
Yeah. Also seen
I've
seen that guy do the 30 muscle ups unbroken too. So.
Did he do it unbroken?
Yeah. I don't know if it was at the games. I've seen him do it in a video.
Wow.
So. Yeah. No.
Well,
bizarre that he's not finished in the top 5 before.
Well, anyway, in conclusion, we'll wrap this up here.
We don't know our conclusion.
Yeah, in conclusion, there is no conclusion. I just thought this one would be kind of a good thought to sort of expand upon, talk about, just see, like, I don't want opinions like that to go out there and just be like, well, that's just little dudes just bitching because they're not going to be as strong as the big guys.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I think we should expand upon that. And I think there's an argument to be had there. There's definitely two sides to it, because I don't think the answer is putting weight classes in the games.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
So anyway, we'll wrap it up from there. Thanks for jumping on me, Dunc.
No problem,
Thank
man.
you to all you listeners for tuning in. Give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe, leave us a review. That's really good for the sort of search algorithms. Do this week's jerk work, tag us in it, and I think that's it. Dunc, you have any parting words?
No. I think I left it all out there in the pod. Appreciate you having me on.
That dead horse is very beaten. All right, thanks for listening, everybody. Don't get off, Dunc.